Yes, and there we are again with a new episode of Dancegems, the podcast of different kind, different perspective on dancing. And today we are going to talk about observational and imitative learning in dance. Is it important? What is it? How can you use it? And anything more. But I never do that, of course, without my good friend and partner in crime, Mr. Ton Greten. Let's see if he's there all the way from the Netherlands. Hey Ton,
Yes,
how are you doing, my friend?
very nice, Sean. And yes, today we have a very interesting topic. Like
I thought
normally,
so.
every
Yeah,
every topic is very nice.
yeah,
It's very subjective.
it's very
But
subjective.
if you really would listen till the end, you would definitely
Yeah,
discover something
and
and
you can
hopefully develop after that
and
something.
develop and can make your own opinion about observational and imitative learning, whether it is
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So, anyhow, we are always grateful that you listen to us and hopefully stick to the end. This is, I don't know how you do it, it's a slightly different thing, but if I listen to podcasts so often, and it could be about dance, there are not so many, by the way, podcasts about dancing where topics like this are discussed. To be honest, there are podcasts about dancing, but typically not about podcast. That's just what I want to say. But the other thing that I want to say, if I listen to podcasts of things that interest me, very often I have to pause it and then go a little bit back and listen it again. And I do that. That's a way to learn. It's just a little
Yes,
tip. It's just a little tip.
yes. Oh, actually, more to repeat. I
Yeah,
do the
repeat it.
same, Sean,
Yeah.
but I put it also in my phone, in my notice. I put the information, new words, what I never discovered, and I hear it for the first time. So I write them down, and then I repeat them in my lessons, and the students repeat them too. And then we start to learn. So by repeating. And this will be also our next podcast, how we can learn. But today we have observation and imitated learning.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And yeah, so why is that so important, Ton, that we know how to observe and that we imitate? First of all, that is our most natural. So first modality, the first way we learn, right? The first way we learn is literally imitating our parents. When that's sometimes strange, people from one family they move and sound the same, and that's actually for that reason. The reason is
Yes,
they.
that correction that imitated. It starts from very young,
Yep. Yep.
and we don't use the word copy,
No.
or it's a
No, we as
it's a
you and
couple.
me. Copy.
No.
Yeah, copy. You say that. Can you copy my movement? The people say that. Well, I know don't say
Yeah,
that, but yeah, people
yeah,
say that. Yeah. Copy
yeah.
of mirror. You hear also, can you mirror my movement? That's also what you hear. But we prefer, can you explain? We prefer the word imitate. Yeah.
Imitate,
Yeah.
yes. That's when you do a movement and you try to do about the same movement, it will be never be exact because you would copy it. You can go on the machine and then it would be exact.
Yeah.
And this, yeah, Sean,
First of
continue.
all, is one of the things that you people have noticed that in gems, in that's the method, then gems we try to consistently use the same word because then the meaning, at least for us people who are working with the gem method, we have the same. We have the same meaning for that word. We can debate long whether copy or mirroring is a better word, not an issue for us. We like to use the word imitating because we believe actually you can never 100% copy someone in his movement because you are a different person and you cannot see what this person is thinking or feeling. So you will always fall, yeah, that will, but you can imitate and come close, which has a function in learning.
Yes, absolutely. And when you are young, actually you not learn, you are imitating, but you have to do it many times as a child to imitate your parents. And also the in subjective words, the good and the bad habits, but both they imitate because for the child there is no good and bad. They see the example and try to imitate that, and they repeat it. They discover something, small steps, and then step by step they come to a result, and then you have a habit. A habit, it's not bad or good, it's just a habit. But if you want to break the habit again, there is a lot of cuff, concentration, attention, and focus for necessary, and many repeatings, because actually for your brain is this gymnastic, because you have to work with your brain and with your body to bend this habit to another new habit. And this is quite interesting. And doing this your whole life, even on a, say, on an age from 60, 70, 80 years, that's very positive, to do your habits, to break that habit and make new habits again. Also for
Yeah,
your
definitely.
brain, it's positive, and for your body.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting that you say that, and I wish I remember to say it also in the Dutch podcast. So Ton and I will always do the same topic in Dutch.
Hmm.
It's not always exactly the same podcast because so in this thing, Ton, that has a lot to do with CAF. CAF stands for concentration, attention, and focus. It's a word that we use in Gem. And I forgot to mention it, but there is a difference between synchronized and asynchronized or non synchronized imitation. So if I'm in front of the class and I say, hey, follow me what I do, we call that synchronized imitation, which is good for the development, but people start to rely on the people who is in front of them. If you let them
Hmm.
asynchronize doing, that means I'll do it first and then you imitate as much as you can after I stopped. That has also a function. And then they have a different concentration, attention, focus. They have to look different because now they have to realize, oh, in a moment I have to do it myself. Thus, and if I constantly only be in front of them doing the movement, that's a good first step. But the second step is
Yes.
actually, I stop doing it. Now you do it, right? And then sometimes one by one, two by two, or whatever you do. And so I forgot to mention that there is in learning a big difference between synchronized and non-synchronized imitation. But what the literature say about that, strangely enough, they don't connect the kaf to it. That there's a different level of concentration, attention, and focus. When you synchronize someone, you have to just concentrate and be aware what's around you, but you don't really focus on this is what I want to remember, right? Because
Mm.
you don't have to remember yet. But when I say in 5 minutes you have to do it by yourself, you see a complete switch of the people's focus and attention. So
Yes, because we can do it, give some context very
yeah,
shortly, Sean.
yeah,
The concentration is time related. 45 minutes, a human being could be concentrated. But it starts first with the attention in space because it's space related. When Sean comes in a room, my attention and my head would turn if I would look somewhere different, and my attention would be somewhere different. And then somebody else on the other side starts to speak, so my head will turn, and it's again space related. Then the teacher starts, I go to a different space, my attention goes to the spot where I'm walking, and then I look to the teacher, and then my attention goes again to a different spot. And this is why it's space related. The focus is more specific on
more
small
short.
details, space time related, because it's very short. And but first, you are mostly are in the attention and then later in the focus. If you are concentrated, that's also, you need all three. And if you not have all three and you listen only to the information, you miss the information of the teacher, what he is doing. So you have to look, you have to listen, and you have to concentrate also. So all that's the observation actually where we are speaking about it, Sean,
Yeah.
and we didn't explain the word observation. And maybe you could explain that word first, and then I'll stop
You're going
my
back and
zoom
forward.
in, zoom out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
why it's doing that.
Yeah.
Yes, Sean.
Yeah, so you have to. Observation is very often only used by seeing, right? I observe something and then I can imitate it, right? So that there's a step in it. What Ton and I say, observing actually happens with all your external senses. It doesn't only happen, I mean, you can stimulate it, by the way. That doesn't only happen by watching it, but it also happened by mostly watching and hearing and feeling, and to some extent even smelling and tasting. We will come back on that in a whole different podcast. But observation is mostly through our auditory and our visual senses, right? So the nice word for that is extroception. That's your external, what you externally perceive, and then you need to internalize it to be able to imitate that. And in that process, a lot of things can happen. But we need to explain and help people first to become better observers, not only watching, and CAF is essential for that. Ton explained it already. You need to give it concentration, attention. Focus is almost a choice. I would like you to focus more on their feet or on their head or on a specific things. We can direct their attention towards something, and then it's called focus, right? So that's what observation is about. Um, your
It's
Yeah,
very important, Sean. And if you give really attention to yourself, to be concentrated
I love
in
it.
your attention, in your focus to the person what is in front of you, then you can take the information and you follow that first without judgment, without own thought with it. You try like a sponge, how you say that, to absorb it. And then after it, you repeat it, and then you can adjust it or you keep it. What you have always the choice to adjust it. So there is no truth in it. There is no good or wrong in it. It's just you follow another person and think also about that because you imitate that person, but that person before repeated already a few times or many times, you don't know that.
No idea.
And the train is in station three, but you are start from station one. And so you need some duration to adapt to it and to get in it. And that is the CAF is very important to be there to come also on that journey with the teacher. And the beauty of it is if once you can handle his language, then you can make your own language from it because it's it makes your personality stronger if you have options and can choose from your own person
Yeah.
in what you believe, what you know at that moment. And Sean said today a very beautiful sentence, and we will work on that one in the other podcast. It's if the human is not seeing, you cannot know it. Or can you maybe you
The
can
other way
repeat it,
around.
Sean?
So you
Yes,
cannot
yes.
see what you don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can. If you don't know it, you can't see it, and that sounds. If you just hear it for the first time, and I'm not sure if that's true for you guys, of course, but I very often is that people reject that sentence. Oh, that's not
Mm,
true. But if you think about what Ton and I started to talk about today, and how do you observe, you do it with your exteroception, which is your external senses. There is the word ception in that, and that comes from the word perception, and it is how you see things, and how you see things is influenced by your upbringing, your knowledge, your experience, and so on. So without you wanting it, you already translate in what you understand and therefore sometimes you come to this notion, oh, I'm doing exactly what the other person does, but it looks different. If that's true, then you did not do exactly what the other person does. As simple as that is. And that has a lot to do that with the experience that you have, how your body is developed, it interprets only. And the more you know, the more you can interpret. That's where that's coming from.
yes. And you have options. And when you have options, you can
Yeah,
choose.
you can choose.
And if you not have the option, how you want to choose?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. One
Sounds,
of the most remarkable things that I found using the gem method on is, for a lot of people in the beginning, a movement is just a movement, and they have to find very complicated words to describe how I move my arm. Once we explain them that you can only bend, rotate, and flex, they very quickly say, oh, the arm is bending and the leg is stretching. So they
mhm,
immediately can put words to the movement that they see, and therefore also the imitation goes much quicker once now they have the word. They know now how the basic body mechanics of a body's work. Once that knowledge is not there, it's just a slew of things. They say, yeah, the head is doing something, and the arms are doing something, but now they know, hey, it's bending, rotating, and stretching or extending, and then they imitate much faster. Say, okay, let's first. Does that make sense? So what you did not know, you could not see. Now that you know it's only bending, extending, and rotating, now you also see it. And that's for me
yes,
always first. It's almost, it's not literally page one in Gem, but it's almost page one in Gem, right? Is that's principle. And
mhm,
Ton and I can do literally a whole day only working with this, only working with this.
yeah.
And
And
so that's always
so,
my example, saying, "Oh, but Charles, what do you mean with that?" I said, think about this, and then we'll take it further. We'll take it further, and it takes a while before you see all the gem elements in someone's movement. It does.
yes, absolutely, Sean. I put some notice on it because we mentioned it also in the Dutch podcast.
Yes.
If you know your body awareness, we call it proprioception.
Yeah.
And proprio means your own property, your body.
Yeah.
And deception, it's a perception of that body. And how more you are aware from your body parts and how you bend, stretch, and rotate them, you can practice this during the day. How easier or how more you can make a shortcut, because easy is quite subjective, but you could make a shortcut if you know your body very well and you could imitate in a shortcut because already the bending, stretch, and also experience you need. Because when you not have experience in that kind of style, then then it's also again time related in the duration. For some people, short, for some people, need a longer duration. And you can build up a new muscle memory. Our last podcast was about muscle memory.
Yeah.
And if you can build on that muscle memory, you can manipulate it also after, if you once can handle it, from the imitation from the person who is in front of you. But what is the goal to imitate somebody? That's actually muscle learning. You're learning by muscles. That's a word what we use in the gym. and you explore then all these muscles, and then you repeat it, you get a memory, and then you manipulate it again, and or you keep the memory. But what we mentioned before, if you keep only the memory, you work on the automatic pilot, and then you come in the comfort zone. A new word. Comfort zone means I want not to have a challenge. It must be easy for myself. But when it's easy for yourself, ask yourself what you are developing at that moment from the imitation. So go to the max, and when you start to imitate somebody, try to go till the end that you can manage it. That is what I would do. And actors, they imitate also people. They observe them and then they try to do it. Only not in the movement, but also in the voice. And they repeat this so often that it's sometimes very close to the person who they was mimic it, or that's sometimes quite funny also to see, but also sometimes dangerous.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. Well, nice. I like that. Yeah, comfort, being in your comfort zone is, it's, if there's one thing that a body and a mind gravitates to, and I've explained that in many of our podcasts, the basic principle of a body and a mind is they are efficiency machines, right? They want to do things as easy as possible. Also, your mind. So, that's one of the reasons why habits are created, both bodily and mentally habits, because then you don't have to give it any cuff anymore. You don't have to give it any concentration, attention, and focus, which is basically another definition of a habit. We do something and you don't need any, which has a function, right? Muscle memory has a function. We talked about it, but it's one aspect. If you only look for creating habits, you don't change anything anymore. And changing is almost always where you need concentration, attention, and focus. And the first part to see if you can change something is if can you imitate someone who's doing different movements than you normally do. That is, so you change your habits in movement, which is always in essence a little bit uncomfortable, sometimes even painful, because that's what your body is resisting in accepting something that it doesn't know yet, because it wants to be efficient, right? And it's also the thinking. So if you talk to Tong long enough, then you know that Ton made it almost a habit to be uncomfortable. And I used to use the sentence, be comfortable in being uncomfortable, right? Which is the same thing. And that is, you constantly try to look for something that your body is not so comfortable with. And that doesn't mean, by the way, that we are not embracing the part where it is comfortable with by repetition and so on. But there's a grow, and it needs to be a good mix of both of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
absolutely, Sean. And when it's comfortable, maybe that's a, I assume, or the
yeah.
judgment,
Mhm.
maybe you didn't pay for it and you think,
Yeah.
oh, it's just information, it's for free. But doesn't matter if it's for free or you pay
Yeah.
$1 or €1 or 100 or thousands. But if you not have the money and you have to pay a lot for it, then you go completely for it because you want everything what you paid for. You want the full experience from it, I would say. And what actually, maybe you work very hard for that money, but if it would be for free, it's also the same. But because it's for free, you get it for free, so it has no value. So I assume that. But, or there is some teacher there who is not so famous, and you think, okay, I will follow him. And then there is a, but this not famous person give really value information, but you not know and you cannot know it and you not see the information there. That makes it a challenge. And then you get a famous person And yeah, I assume that. And this information is not so clear, not what you say, wow, I had lessons from that famous person, but you not didn't really think about the content, what he really tell there. And also with that is imitated learning. Only you can only do that if the person in front of you is doing that. And when he is doing that, you look to it, and maybe when the person tells something, be really give attention to it, what he really is saying there. And then write it down for yourself or make a video and then repeat it again and look to it again and think also by yourself. Don't, even to me, I would say in my lessons, don't believe me, don't trust me. I do something now, but I have always a reason why I do something. And I will tell them the reason. But I ask them always why I would do that, why I would do it like that. And then mostly I don't get answers. Then I give them the answers because, again, what you not know, you cannot see.
Yeah, that is what you don't know, you cannot see. It goes a lot further than that. I think in our first year of podcast, I gave this example where people actually, where they found a tribe where they had no knowledge of the color blue. It's a relatively known research that even the researchers thought, how is that possible? But they were triggered immediately in researching that. So they had questions like, oh, if they don't see blue, then how would they call the sky? It's not that the people had a different name for the word blue. No, they literally had no notion of the word blue, which also hopefully makes us also a little bit humble. It does Ton and me, because once we figure that out, you can't see what you don't know. Then Ton and I realize there must be a lot of things that we still cannot see then because we don't know everything, right? So if you go and look at dancing with the notion that you think you know everything, then you might miss something, right? And so we constantly are discovering things. We constantly discovering new knowledge, and sometimes it challenges in our old definitions and knowledge, and then we change it too, right? Which is for years and years, people believed that the earth was flat, and even scientists believed it. And then we figured out that it's not true. And yeah, you have to correct a couple of things. And I definitely gave a couple of examples in this podcast many times over, like the split between body and mind, which is not there, but we believed it for a long time. And I still come across people who still believe that. Yeah. And there are many other scientific proofs, and that is a little bit also the drive of Ton and me, is seeing dance also as a topic of research. And that means that sometimes we find proof for the things that we come up with, sometimes we find new information, and sometimes we have to change the information we had. But one important thing in this, and that's what we're talking about today, is we constantly try to improve the way we observe and be able to imitate. And both Ton and I were sometimes, oh, we don't agree with it, and now we don't want to do it. And now we actually changed ourselves a little bit. Ton said it in a personal thing, like, hey, you know what? That's actually not a nice way of doing it. Things we might not agree how they move, but we can at least try to imitate them and see, and maybe we can learn something. And then afterwards, our choice, we can still say, that's not what we're going to do. But then it's afterwards. We try now not to reject it immediately up front unless we have researched something so well and deep that we know for sure. But most of the things we don't know for sure. So now we just go into a lesson. We don't actually think about whether do we agree with it or not. We just go with the flow, and then afterwards we decide whether we follow it. But that we do that with a lot of observation and hopefully more and more skills in imitation. Imitation is also a skill. And I hope you do that with the podcast too. Listen to it first and then unpack it, as I call it. And you don't want to do anything with it, great. But listen to it first and then look at it. And so that's also imitating the knowledge that we give you is also a form of imitation. Can you repeat what we say and understand it? Your microphone is off, Tom.
And the terminology also, Sean.
Yeah, yeah,
The
absolutely.
terminology,
Forgot to mention that.
yes,
Yeah, the same words. Yes. Yeah.
yes. And if you understand the words, over time, you can shift from imitation to a personal interpretation.
Yeah.
So, from imitation to interpretation. And you can put one word in between, it's a personal interpretation. That's really important to, because at the end, I want to see you and not the teacher where you imitate from. And let's see how much motivation you have to repeat it, because repetition, by say a simple coordination, simple has not to be simple, could be quite difficult for somebody else or quite challenging when you use a positive, more positive word. If you practice then as a simple coordination, you could train 300 till 600 times
Yeah.
from 3 weeks till 6 weeks. So approximately 100 time you have to do it, that phrase of movements, frame of movements. And if it's more complex, take 3 till 6 months till a half year. For some persons is different, and it depends how many times you repeat it. And then you need to practice 3,000 till 6,000 times. And what tell out, if you practice 5 times a week, you have to repeat it at least 20 times in a day if you practice 5 days a week. So then you come on that 100. But not all people doing that. They practice it 3, 4, 5 times, and then they think they could manage
Yeah.
it. That you have to do it so many times that it gets a new habit. And that new habit, you can later, when you can manage it, you can manipulate it. And then you get your personal interpretation of it. And that's the beauty of the art of the person who imitate there. Because actually you follow, and in the beginning, is that wonderful to imitate other people because you have an example and it makes it a little bit more comfortable. Start directly not to imitate somebody and do your own style. That's also okay. Yeah, it depends. Now I'm older. I realized that imitation and following is quite important. But
Yeah.
I had a time in my when I was 40, 50 years old that I had, and but now this is gone because you need both. You need it, but always with a purpose and a goal in it.
I tell you this, Ton, from a person's development, right? We started this conversation already by mentioning that every kid learns first by imitating, by
Yeah,
observing and imitating. There is no, we know kids that had no examples, they cannot speak, they cannot even move in a way most human beings. That teaches us a couple of things, right? That also
yes,
teaches us that what we think is natural is maybe not even so natural. It's just a mimicking of what we saw before, and we call that natural, which is there is no proof of that is natural. It's just an imitation of what we see everyone doing it, and we call that natural. Now, what is natural is that the earth revolves around the sun. That's a natural process, right? That's natural. But how we move, you could think it's natural, but it's actually not so natural because when we research that, you can see that in other countries they move different because their imitation is different. But what we also know, yeah, go ahead, Tom.
yeah, not only in the body but also in the
Oh,
speaking. Yes,
speaking, thinking, even what things we think smells nice and not nice. Because you
yeah,
come to another country, you're like, oh, that smells, and another person like, oh my gosh, that smells so good. And it's just
yeah,
all
yeah,
imitation. That's all learned behavior. Now,
Yes.
Most, Ton was a little bit of an exception. Most young people, most young people can imitate. Ton was actually not an exception in what I say. Can imitate very fast without having all the other things that we mentioned before. That's just because they're young. They are, I call it unblemished. They still they're a blank sheet of paper, and so the imitation lands very clear on that piece of paper. But try to use a copy machine where already stuff is on it, and you want to copy something else on it. It looks completely different. It's not the same. Young people, when you put them through a copy machine, you put a picture on it, it will be almost exactly the same because they're unblemished. Does that make sense, Tom?
Yes.
As older people, we have to understand that we are no longer unblemished. We need to understand this proprioception and how that works. Otherwise, that copy won't work. I hope that people really understand. I don't think I've ever said it as clear as I said today. That's a difference. Young people, when they grow up, sometimes they only stay in the imitation and observation. They don't learn how to make their own choices. And then we see, Tom and I see over time, that their development actually stopped because they only keep doing imitating, observing, imitating. They don't make choices anymore. It's a good
Yes.
development phase,
Yes.
and that's all it is. And if you are a young dancer and you grew up among great dancers, you will be in your young early age, you will already be pretty good in quality, but you still at some point in time need to use the words, make choices, and so on.
Yes, but sometimes it's also the teacher who are saying to you, if you do it like him, that's good
Oh yeah, that's
because they have a
correct.
good result or
Yeah,
they have a job. Yes. And then you try to do that and you did this 1,000 times,
yeah,
but still you not get that result of that
yeah,
person.
yeah,
Yeah. But you have to find your own way through observation, through imitation, and also all the information you have, try also to look to videos and look to other dances.
yeah.
And the
Do that.
strange thing is, if you dance in a theater and the choreographer made a piece 10 years ago, they follow the video and repetitor, you repeat that, and then they dance it, but it will never be like it was in the first time with that dancers, because maybe this choreographer has made it particular for these dancers and they made it together. It's still the choreographer, but it has a different juice than when somebody else would do that and just only imitate it. So put always after the imitation, I would say that
Choice.
a personal interpretation,
Yeah, choice.
because then it's you
Absolutely.
and nobody can blame that you are not yourself. But first, of course, imitate it, try to find a way, and then the same piece from that theater, from that choreographer, will have still the same structure, but with a little different content in it of expression, how this person expressed that piece. And probably, I assume, this choreographer 10 years later would be also very happy to see it in that interpretation. I sometimes I see this with songs, Sean, that people learn the same text, but they put it in a different tempo and in a different dynamic, in a different, yeah, dynamic, and it's sometimes, and in a different instrument. And then you listen to it, and I think, wow,
Oh,
that's,
completely different.
I
Yeah,
never saw that.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, I think that I like that example. If you see a sentence like "I didn't do that" and you only see the words, then you could say, "Hey, I'm mimicking." But maybe I said it in the way, say, "I did not do it," or maybe say, "I did not do it." Right? Completely different meaning of the same words.
yeah.
So yeah, I
We
think
we have a word for that one, Sean.
yeah,
We call it prosody.
yeah, prosody. Yeah,
And if you want to know it, because now I'm not the teacher who is telling everything,
Yeah.
or the person here. So
Look it up.
by yourself and
Prosody.
look it up what
Yeah.
it means.
With prosody. Yeah. So Ton said, yeah, there are now different media through which you can learn. You have audio, you have video, but do all understand that the things that we tell you are so incredibly related. So video, yes, great, but you miss a big part of proprioception because you have
Yeah.
very little feel of how it relates in the space because it's two-dimensional, not three-dimensional. And it's great. Once you know that, then you can look at the video different. Some people say, no, I only learn from videos. I can guarantee you that and every medium has, if you listen to our podcast, then you can hear our tone of voice, right? And they go, okay, they think that's important because I can hear it from their voice. If you read our blogs where you only see the text, then you just have the dry knowledge, which is also good. But if you know that Ton has explained this, and by the way, it's also in the book is Gem. If you understand the medium, then you know the pro and cons of that medium, and you can use these words that we have used today a lot: CAF and proprioception, exterioception, and interoception, quite often. There are more words that we bring in later, but it has all to do with how we learn. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all to do how we learn.
Because you have also the word phonology, that's the sound, like when you speak, and I would say an E or the or E. So you could E. So there is some difference in it, and I could not say exactly the same letter D, T. There could be a different how you use your tongue, and it sounds also different. So each person is different,
Oh
and
yeah.
we can imitate that, but till a certain point.
Oh yeah.
And painters doing this also. This is why we have these famous painters who can imitate a painting and it look exactly the same, and even the specialists cannot see the difference in it.
Can hardly see
But
it.
if you really looking hard for it, the one who imitate a painting know exactly where he not could reach the maximum of imitation.
Yeah.
He know it already,
No.
but the expert didn't observe it enough. And that works the same in dancing. So try to find your own style. And in all this artist is the same. If it would be music, or it would be an actor, or it would be a painter. If you imitate that in the first place, and then you find your own style afterwards,
Yeah, definitely.
that's
And we
that's
think
the
it's yeah.
most beautiful.
So we typically think that great imitators, right, with voices, sometimes they can do the voices of all these people. We tend to think that it's skillful, but we tend to think it's more funny. If you think about it, if you people come to a certain level of knowing how to move or use their voice, but find their own choices, we think that more as artistic, right? And you hear
Hmm.
it a lot in singing competitions. Oh, they try to sing exactly like Mariah Carey. But if they use
Yes,
a
yes,
song of Mariah Carey but use their own interpretation, then you see the audience and the judges typically say, whoa, that was so artistic, right? Because otherwise it looks like even if you get almost exactly the same as that person, it's skillful, but it still doesn't feel right because it's not you. So it's a great exercise, but then make your choices. Now we have on stage, if someone can do these voices very quickly and exactly the same, it's always entertaining and funny, but we don't typically, we put it skillful, but it is not artistic. Your choices get into the artistry, which is very subjective and a whole different topic, but it's important to see the development stages you go through.
yes. It's how you do the observation, and what is your expectation as a judge or as an audience, and your expectations from it. Because when you want that it sounds exactly like that, then it's already fixed in your head, that it
Yes.
must be like that.
Yeah.
And if you are open for it, you look and give the respect what they do with it.
Yeah.
And if this is in the quality where you think it had to be, then it is what it is. And but without assuming and judgment go into it. And the same is like when you are dancing, try really go to the maximum of it. And I would first, when I would relate it to dancing, I would mimic or imitate first the form of it. Where are the arms? Where
Yeah.
are the legs? Where are the
Yep.
feet? Not exactly, because sometimes it goes very fast, and I need a longer duration to get it more in my muscles, in my brain. Once I have it, then I can more relate it to imitate the movement. Once I have the movement and I can follow it, plus minus, I can follow it, the movement. When I can handle it, both the form and the movement, I go to the dynamic.
Yeah.
And then I see the small details focused where it goes slower or softer, where the vibration is longer, or where the bounce is more to the maximum deeper, or etc. So that would be the stages. And then at last, I put my own expression in it, in my face, in my body, in the gestures, and then I make it completely my own. And because that would be weird also to imitate the expression from the teacher who is in front of you. I never saw that. When he smiles, you smile. When he is angry, you get also angry.
Yeah.
So that mostly the expression is not imitated, what I see or
To
what I
begin,
observe.
right? Yeah, to
Hmm?
what was it? 2 days ago, I went to a theater, to the theater, and I you do that a lot too. I love it. I love all kind of things in theater, but I mostly like musicals where there's a lot of dancing. It's just like me. And this was Moulin Rouge, and Moulin Rouge is a musical. And the first time it showed it, I think it was in the late '90s, and then they make a movie about it in 2001. And so I saw Moulin Rouge now for the third time live on stage, and this particular show, it's personal, of course, but I liked it a lot. But you see that in a theater like this, a lot of choices are made for them. You have to stand there, you have to move here, so you have to laugh here, you have to be loud here. It's all made for them. But still, this is always what I intrigues me. Still, you can see some sort of their own personality in it. The theater shows that attracts me when I still, although they play a character, there is still a little bit of that in there. It's a certain quality that they reach, that there is still a little place for them to what you said. The expression is, and I think a director and a choreographer leave space for that. If they say
Hmm.
to you, it has to be like this, and this is the only correct way, it gets very dry and cold, and you feel some sort of a distance. And that's in a very interesting space. It's very hard to reach and describe, but it's something that Ton and I are always looking for. Yes, you need to be able to observe and don't immediately reject, oh, I do it immediately something else. See first if you can do it like the other person do, and then make your choices. And sometimes Ton proved that to me a million times. Sometimes, if you only change one little thing in that whole thing that he mentioned, just one little thing, it gets a whole different meaning and feeling. It doesn't have to be 180 degrees different thing. Just doing the arm different, doing the emotion slightly different, and the whole movement change. So, can you imitate yourself and then change it? Because that's what you do too. You constantly imitate yourself and then
This is why I let some freedom in information
always,
or
yeah,
in a team for
that's an
one or two person or for all of the person to
that's
interpret it totally in a chaos. And that
fascinating.
is also a tool.
Yeah.
And that tool makes it also again special. It's one of my signatures
Yeah, I
to
think
do
so.
that.
I think so.
Yes.
But I try to. mimic you, no pun
Mhm.
intended. But I think that is true for a normal choreography too. Leave space for the other one to do. It doesn't have to be a lot. You don't say, oh, instead of left, you go right. No, it's just small things where it frees the dancer. They love it. And I don't know, it has a lot more attraction, more spice in it. I admire you a lot for doing that with a whole group. I definitely admire it because when you first introduced that, people don't understand what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
information, Tom. You have to tell us what we need to do. Yeah,
Yes, order and unorder.
yeah,
Is that the right
yeah,
English
yes,
word?
good. Yeah,
Yes, it's it's a what you can use.
cool.
So we try to synchronize everything, the body parts, how the form is in space related, the movement, how they are related in time, or the dynamic in time,
Yeah,
but let space there to break the order and make unorder. It makes it some more exciting. The same like only imitate the symmetric movements, let space also for asymmetric movements.
yeah,
And it makes it also more exciting to watch to it because the whole routine only symmetric and synchronized. It's also quite impressive to look to it, but still it's art, and when to break it, it depends to the person. So you not have to imitate it exactly, but we mentioned it before. If you have the tools for it, and it's what Sean said too, if you have the knowledge, you can break it. If you not have the knowledge, you not can see it. And you can nothing do with it. You can only imitate it, but you don't know the reason of it. And this is really important, not just to observe, but also study it
yeah.
and take your time for it, a particular time. Why this person has so many videos, but each from these choreographies looks really different. That ask that yourself. And but still it can be the same style and but still different in the choreography. And to break that again is really you have to go deep down into yourself and ask always yourself questions. Okay, when I imitate somebody, what is the reason why I do something like that? And what is the purpose? And once you know that, you want to get more experience, that's okay. But and you will discover more because to imitate one time a routine, it will not say that you can do the routine.
Oh no.
It needs repetition. And I have to go to my students. I have still 2 minutes, Sean.
Yeah, I know, but you did it. We did it while Ton is prepping for his class. It was a good ending, by the way, for our podcast about observing and imitating and why that's so important in the learning. There's a lot more to say it. We'll come back to it with another episode. It's how we learn in that as well. So thank you for this podcast. Thank you, of course, for listening to us always, dear viewers and listeners. I hope you thought it was an interesting podcast. Listen to it a few times. That's the only thing I can say. Try
Yeah,
to not
then you
judge
will
it yet.
discover.
Yeah, and then make your choices afterwards. That
Yes,
was that, Tom. I'll see you in our next episode with hopefully
yes.
another, I'm sure of it, another interesting topic. Today we talked about observational and imitative learning in dance. Maybe it's always in dance with us, right? It's always in dance with us. Yeah. While Tom is saying goodbye to us, I'm going to tell you where you can find us. Okay, I say bye bye to you, Tom.
Goodbye, and thank you for listening. If you
Yes, and
read,
you can, yeah, we
read
can find us on Dance Gems, Apple, also Dance Gems, YouTube at Tom Greten /podcast. Our website is www.gems.dance/podcast. And of course, we have a Facebook group called The Dance Gems. With that, Tom, I say to you bye bye, and to our listeners too, bye bye.
goodbye.